So now we're moving on to Boukenshin, the Boukenshin book from manga, Tokyo Pop. They have multiple stories in here, and the first one is titled Changeling. Published date of this one is April 2009. I was not as successful in getting a lot of information about the production people of this book, the creative team. They are light on the titles or the credits that they give within the book, so I have a lot less information about this one. But the main thing is the writer is David Gerrold of Trouble with Tribbles fame and multiple other Star Trek stories and other non-Star Trek stories also. So always loved Trouble with Tribbles. And was it more Trouble with Tribbles, I think, in the animated series?
Right, I think so.
The artist is E.J. Sue. Cover art's Chrissy Delk. I was able to find that much out. And the editor is Luis Reyes, same guy as the other one. And this time also Bryce P. Coleman has editor duties. The cover presents Picard with a no-nonsense look on his face, hiking up a mountain on what appears to be a barren, tan-colored alien world that reminds me of Mars. The Enterprise D is low enough in the sky that we can see it far above Picard. Picard sees off an away team consisting of Commander Riker, Worf, Troy, Geordi, and young Wesley Crusher. This mission sounds like a lot of technobabble, as Picard talks about it, but essentially the team must transport to a location, make their way to the center of the Labyrinth of Wisdom, where they will take readings and monitor flux capacitor changes. Okay, not flux capacitor, but still, flux changes. Woo! Wesley is being a real precocious PIA prior to transport. Picard tells him to work as a member of the team rather than showboating and trying to do everything yourself, Wesley. And get off my bridge. After transport, the team makes their way into a pyramid structure. At the doorway, Troy comments that the pyramid is kind of like a TARDIS. Geordi explains that it's an effect of the Nexus energy. G's. And they enter. Riker tells them to stick together as they made their way through the structure. But Wesley has to be competitive and says he will run ahead and show them how it's done. Geordi warns Wesley about the flux energies and tells him to slow down. Wesley enters a room ahead of the others and steps onto a round platform to show how fearless he is. A bright light ensues, and Wesley finds the energies have changed him into a young black man. The others are shocked and concerned, but Geordi says Wesley's changed into a chief engineer. Isn't that great? Wesley yells at the commander, asking him how he will change back. They say the mission briefing said, it's the legend of the Labyrinth. Those who journey to the center are permanently transformed. Worf says he cannot undo the change. Wesley freaks out, saying he likes how he was. He finally settles down and starts to get used to his new appearance. The others talk Wesley into trying the next pedestal device in a different location in the Labyrinth. He may find the next change more to his liking. They finally find the next pedestal that Wesley steps on. This time, he is changed into a Klingon! Worf is not happy. Wesley is not happy. They say Wesley wanted to be bigger, and he's bigger. The next door opens, and Riker says, let's keep going. Unfortunately, there is a loud roar in the darkness beyond the new door. They are all freaked out, but Wesley in particular. Worf gives him a pep talk about courage and it being okay to be afraid as long as you do what you have to do despite your fear. A huge mechanical scorpion emerges from the darkness. Phasers can't stop it. Wesley grows a backbone and gets angry. He leaps up on the mechanical beastie and finds a weak spot where he can fire his phaser into it and disable the metal monstrosity. They move on and find the next room, with the next pedestal in the center. This time, Wesley is changed into a pretty hot little Betazoid lady in a short skirt. Most of the way, the team is shocked, but Riker is actually smiling slyly. Wesley grabs his head. All the voices in his head. He can read emotions in others, but he can't turn it off. Troy says he will learn. Wesley finally takes a few breaths and settles down. Riker gives him a pep talk. Wesley learns a valuable lesson about being a member of a team and apologizes to everyone. They decide to move on and come to the center of the labyrinth, the last platform. Wesley steps up and nothing happens. Wesley is pretty hot looking, but he's freaking out again. He wanted to finish learning how to be a man. They conjecture that no more changes are necessary for Wesley. He comes to grips with his new gender reality. Riker initiates transport back to the ship. When transport is complete, they find themselves in a holodeck. They never left the ship. All the transformations were holodeck hoaxes. It was all part of an elaborate plan to teach Wesley a lesson. He was angry at first, but finally lightens up and admits he did learn a valuable lesson. Shucks. He even found the grace to smile and laugh at himself a little. The end.
So, I got a few problems with this story.
Really? I'm surprised. Well, do tell.
All right, so and the main two have to do with him being the Beta Z woman.
Yes.
One, Riker knows that it's still Wesley. And yet he's like, I like you.
Do your word.
Oh, Uki.
Oh, Uki. It's Uki.
Yes, that was very awkward.
Some of the humor actually worked, and I kind of like that joke.
But I mean, so okay, I'll even buy that you could make it look, put a holographic image over somebody else's own body and somehow trick them into thinking that they've changed. But that's stretching it quite a bit for me. And then to also, how did he get all the powers of a Beta Z? So he was reading their feelings and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not holographic.
No.
Manipulation.
Yeah, if you think about this, the whole thing falls apart. So let's just go with the female thing. So if he took his hand and put his hand up on his chest, would he be feeling breasts?
Holographic ones, sure.
Okay, holographic, photons. Okay, we're getting back to the whole thing about the holodeck thing.
Right.
And what if he put his hand maybe
Somewhere
in his
else?
nether regions? Would he not find Mr. Happy there? Or what?
Nope, I'm with you. It doesn't make sense.
I'm wondering about that too. Anyway.
I may not be wondering as much about it as you are.
Well,
But
you mentioned some things, and I'm mentioning other things. There you go. So this whole thing is supposed to just be lighthearted. It's supposed to be light and fluffy, and it is light and fluffy. So there you go.
Right. It is light and fluffy.
Just don't think too much. And by the way, there were some times when Wesley was a little precocious, but I don't remember him ever being, well, as jerky as he is here.
Right. Yeah, no, he's in their face all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time he was wearing that uniform, he was pretty mellow as far as being part of the team.
Right. Exactly.
He was still wearing that weird sweater thing. Then as far as, his age-wise goes, I would be like, I could see him doing some of this still. But by the time he was wearing the uniform, he wasn't as bad.
Right. Well, yeah. I don't remember him ever being this bad. But, yeah.
And I got a problem. All right, so he jumps on there and he becomes a Beta Z.
Yeah.
Just happens to be female because that's the main Beta Z we've ever seen. But
Well, and he's taking the characteristics of his teammates.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
the part I have a problem with.
Yeah.
He jumps on there, he becomes a female Beta Z. Okay,
Mhm.
great. He jumps on there, he becomes a Klingon.
There you go.
And
He
then he
jumps on
jumps on there
there.
and he becomes a chief engineer. Chief engineer is not a species.
Well,
It's an
he
occupation.
becomes a young black man.
That's not what they say. They
I
never
know
once
this.
say that.
I
They
know
always
that.
say, "Oh, you're a chief engineer."
I know. Okay, so what's your point?
They should have said, "Oh, you're a black dude. You're not." He doesn't suddenly become a chief engineer.
Although he was able to figure out how to open the door, which I didn't go into, but
But I think that's something Wesley could have figured out anyways. He is
yeah.
a pretty bright little kid.
Well, and that gets to the point that changing your physical appearance with a holodeck, okay, that's one thing I could go into. But he seems to be getting powers here, as your point about reading emotions and hearing people's emotions, whatever. Maybe he would have figured out that door, but they're implying he's got some of Geordi's engineering knack, or whatever. And then, of course, when he's the Klingon guy and kills that scorpion thing, it's like, whoa, that's some pretty good physical stuff. I mean, he just jumps up there on the back of that mechanical scorpion and takes him down. It's like, I don't know.
And
He
you think he could only do that? Only a Klingon could do that?
Well, as opposed to a skinny little guy, maybe. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think up until the time where he had superpowers, as far as the Beta Z reading, I could
Right.
see that the power was in you the whole time. You always had that intellect. You always had that bravery.
Uh-huh.
You can't say you always had mind reading powers.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so for you, if you were in this situation, which change would be hardest for you, Donovan?
Um,
The Klingon?
the hardest
The
or the most distracting?
ah, the hardest to adapt to.
Well, obviously, changing genders would be hard to adapt to.
Okay, so harder than becoming an alien.
Yeah, that would be hard too. You'd suddenly have purple blood. You'd want to eat raw stuff.
Yeah, you want to start. You have a sudden craving for gach
And prune juice.
and prune juice. Well, oh, prune juice. Oh my God, maybe that is the worst.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the gender flipping would be rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last two I think would be the hardest.
Yeah.
You?
I think the gender flipping would be the worst. Hardest to get used to.
Right.
Although, the ridges on your forehead and stuff, I don't know. That would be tough too. I would not find my teeth.
Right. Yeah, I'd be getting caps so that I wouldn't cut my tongue on them.
Oh, yeah, think about that. Ouch. Okay, so what do you think about the drawing? The artwork?
This is very, very cartoony.
Yes, this is full-on manga.
Right. So, for the type of story it is, it fits. I mean, it's a lighthearted story, so it's a lighthearted art style.
Right.
So, even when they had the giant eyes and the mouths that would drop to the floor or whatever, in that very cartoony style, it never really never took me out of the story because it kind of fit.
Right. Yeah. For the kind of story it was.
Right.
And sometimes the artwork actually enhanced the comedic effect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the things that entertained me the most was the look on Riker's face half the time. So whether it be the "hello, female Wesley," or the things where he's surprised and his lower lip is like the way his lower lip is drawn in some of these things, where he's like distressed and surprised, is really, I thought it was pretty good, pretty funny.
Right. Yeah, he always had a good expression on his face.
Right. So, yeah. I will say, though, that the Enterprise D on the cover, the saucer section is far too round.
On the cover or
On the cover. Look at the cover.
All
Above
right.
Picard,
Yeah.
the saucer section is far too round, and if anything, okay, so you remember Enterprise D?
I
It's
do
very
remember
wide.
Enterprise D.
It's very wide, so
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
kind of an ellipse that's wider in the across the center, and not nearly as long front to back saucer
Right.
section.
Yeah. I
This
can see it.
thing, it's much rounder, and if it's actually longer in more of an ellipse in any direction, it's longer than it is wide. So not as much as Voyager, not as much as Enterprise E, but if anything, it's longer than it is wide. And that's just not accurate. I'm sorry. And then the drawing of it, the black and white drawing inside on the cover, the title page, ooh, does not look good.
The one that's on the Boukenshin one.
Right, Boukenshin one.
I think it's the same exact picture, just
Well,
black and white.
but it looks even. It yes, and maybe because it's bigger, and it is black and white. Good point. That probably is exactly the same drawing.
Yeah, it is.
Only bigger and black and white. It looks even worse. But I don't know. It almost looks a little abstract
A little bit.
to me.
But then
Now-
the picture within the book itself, within the story
Yes.
itself,
Yeah.
fantastic picture. I
Yeah.
thought.
So there was a nice picture above above a planet,
Right.
and it does look quite good. Okay, kudos. I ripped them a new one where it was crap, but that looks good. Let's give
Well, we
credit
don't
where
know
credit's
which
due.
artist did the cover, but we
Well-
know that this was E.J. Su who did the interior for this story.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have any info on the cover art, did I? Oh no, Chrissy Delk. Cover art by Chrissy Delk.
Hmm.
So I wasn't able to find that out when I searched around on the interwebs.
All right. Well, I think she does another story in this book, so we'll eventually get to see more of her art style.
Cool. Hopefully cool. We'll find out.
But anyways, the story itself, it wasn't bad. It was just not as good as the other two
Right.
that we did today.
So, in the beginning, when they first look inside of the pyramid, and actually, they literally say, I think it's Troy that says it. It's bigger on the inside than outside.
Yeah.
So, do you think that was a purposeful nod to Doctor Who?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's really awful close to what people say a lot on that show. And I'll tell you, between that and then Geordie's explanation of that, and then all the technobabble Picard was saying, before they went on the mission when they were inside the transporter room, it's like Wesley's pretty dense. I mean, okay, it's a light story, whatever, but it's like something should start to give you a feeling something's amiss here. Anyway.
Right. I hear ya. I hear ya.
I mean, I thought the whole mission was weird. Picard's explanation of the mission was weird. Anyway.
Well, yeah, because it was all, ultimately we find out it's all just a ruse to
Yep.
mess with Wesley.
Yep.
Which, it's a lot of senior personnel that don't have anything better to do than mess around with some kid's brain.
But to help him.
He's purposely scarred for the rest of his life.
Exactly, but he learned a valuable lesson.
He's like... So, one joke I wish they would have done is when he was reading the minds, and he's like, oh, well, y'all see me as being a jerk and a brat and blah, blah, blah. It would have been funny if they kind of panned around and then
Riker?
Riker's giving him that little, you're looking good. And he's like, Riker.
Yeah. Well,
It would have been funny.
it would have been funny, but they probably shouldn't go there.
Yeah, but I want to know. I mean,
It's
because
best
they
to
all look
hint at it, and not.
they all look surprised when he's like, "You all think I'm a brat and all this stuff," and then they all look surprised that he's reading this from them. But they had to have programmed that into the simulation. Otherwise, how is he getting these feelings from everybody?
Well, yeah. Okay, so it all goes back to your point. How is he getting beta said remotion feeling abilities?
Right.
So I mean that whole thing is totally not explained. You just got to turn your brain off at that point, and don't ask too many questions.
Don't ask too many questions. All right, I'll try not to ask any questions anymore.
Well,
I'm done.
Okay. So I did like the joke where Wesley starts asking Worf about how Klingons feel fear, because obviously Worf just said, courage is about if you feel, you feel fear, but you do what you need to do anyway.
Right.
So Klingons feel fear, and then Worf's backpedaling for like 3 panels. I thought that was pretty good. I like that.
Right. Does he actually say anything, or does he?
He does. He says almost never, or he says some things too.
Right.
But it's the look on his face.
Yeah.
And the reactions from everybody else. Oh, is that what they say? He says it happens sometimes. Yeah.
But not very often. That's the
exactly.
last
There you go. Right. So he's backpedaling like crazy. I like that.
Yeah. No, the writing was good. I mean, I like I said, I thought the story was good. It was funny.
Yeah.
It was that last change that I was just like, psh. Because I really thought this is the Wizard of Oz story for him. You had it in you the whole time, kind of thing.
Right.
Except you can't say that for the last one.
No.
He didn't have superpowers.
No.
So, anyways, but aside from that, it was good.
Good.
Just didn't have that, deep storyline like the other ones did, where they were really dealing with horrible things, life and death. So maybe we did need a little levity at the end of the episode.
There you go.